We must acknowledge the specific kind of weight that settles over a relationship after 2 decades, or 3. It is not the weight of shared memories, which are often comforting, but the profound, often unspoken weight of the unlived life. You reach a point where the stability you meticulously constructed, brick by careful brick, suddenly feels like a fortress that has become your prison. The very safety you prioritized, the reliable presence, the predictable routine, the shared financial and logistical structure, starts to feel less like a foundation and more like an emotional anesthetic. It is common to mistake this feeling of emptiness for a failure of love. But it is often something far more complex. It is the mourning of the future that commitment sacrificed. Think for a moment about the definition of stability in a long marriage. It means choosing one path and committing to it, thereby dismissing the infinite other realities that existed at the moment of that initial vow. We do not mourn the person we did not marry. We mourn the self we never became because we chose reliability over risk, familiarity over constant rediscovery. This is the central paradox that many authors have wrestled with for centuries. How do you reconcile the human need for security with the equally profound human need for vitality and novelty? When the security system is fully operational, the vitality often dims. You start to notice a silence in the house that is not peaceful, but hollow. It is the silence that occurs when two people stop being curious about each other. They know the script. They know the reactions. They have become so deeply familiar that they stop truly seeing the person, and instead, they see the role that person plays in the shared ecosystem. The partnership shifts from a dynamic relationship between two autonomous beings to a highly efficient management team focused on logistics, children, and maintenance. This is often where the emotional drift begins, subtle and slow, like erosion. For many women, the feeling of being emotionally seen and verbally validated is the primary pathway to intimacy. If the conversation reduces itself entirely to scheduling and household tasks, the emotional architecture of the relationship begins to starve. For many men, connection is often expressed through competence, activity, and shared silence, sometimes confusing the absence of conflict with genuine emotional resonance. This difference in emotional processing means that both parties can genuinely believe they are present and connected, while simultaneously experiencing profound loneliness. They are operating on two different definitions of us. The resulting emptiness does not remain internal forever. It seeks an outlet. And this is why attraction to others, or the powerful fantasy of a life elsewhere, is not necessarily a sign of moral depravity or a lack of character. It is, far more often, a symptom of a deep, psychological hunger. When you feel that pull towards someone outside the marriage, you are usually not seeking a replacement partner. You are seeking a witness. You are seeking the reflection of the self that stability required you to put on hold. That external person, real or imagined, provides a mirror that reflects the spontaneity, the uncertainty, the intellectual intensity, or the raw desire that has been anesthetized by routine. They represent the possibility you gave up. They do not offer a better life, they offer the illusion of a different life. It is critical to distinguish between desire, neediness, and genuine connection in this context. Desire is the energy that moves toward the unknown. It thrives on distance, risk, and appreciation for the otherness of the partner. It requires space to breathe. Neediness, conversely, is the craving for validation, security, and constant reassurance. It seeks to close the gap entirely, often suffocating the very desire it hoped to ignite. In a long marriage, we often unintentionally turn our partners into fixtures that fulfill our needs. We need them to be reliable. We need them to be financially stable. We need them to be the co-parent. When the relationship is dominated by need, the vital spark of desire vanishes. You cannot desire what you feel entitled to, or what you fundamentally depend upon for structure. This is why many couples find themselves loving each other deeply. They share a history, a family, and genuine affection, but simultaneously feeling zero erotic connection. Love provides security, desire requires mystery. And mystery is the first casualty of long-term stability. When we talk about adjusting the relationship, we are not talking about fixing it in the sense of returning to some idealized past. That past self is gone, and the relationship that existed then is also gone. We are talking about confronting the reality of the present emotional landscape, which is often one of grief. You must grieve the life you chose not to live. You must grieve the person your partner was when you met them, because they, too, have changed beyond recognition. And only after that mourning is complete can you begin the hard, necessary work of establishing a new relationship with the person who sits across the table from you now, a person who is, in many ways, a stranger disguised as a spouse. This requires courage because it means introducing uncertainty back into the system you worked so hard to make certain. It means acknowledging the very real risk that if you peel back the layers of routine, you might not like what you find, or that the other person may not wish to join you on that journey of rediscovery. The alternative, however, is to remain suspended in that quiet, aching resignation, carrying the heavy weight of a life half-lived. That weight, over time, becomes unbearable. It leads to the profound realization that emotional stability, when achieved at the expense of emotional honesty, is merely a sophisticated form of slow psychological decay. We need to understand that fidelity is not just about physical abstention. True fidelity in a long marriage is the continuous, active commitment to the psychological space between you. It is the commitment to remain curious, even when the answers seem obvious. It is the commitment to continually choose the known partner, despite the allure of the unlived future. This journey of confronting the stranger across the table is frightening precisely because it demands the reintroduction of vulnerability. It requires you to lay down the armor of routine and the shield of predictability that you spent decades constructing. You must, in effect, renegotiate the terms of engagement. This is not about scheduling a date night. It is about actively creating psychological distance so that desire has room to breathe. Desire cannot flourish under the weight of constant, transactional closeness. It requires the acknowledgement of separateness, the understanding that your partner is not a utility for your life, but an autonomous being whose internal world you must choose to explore daily. To re-engage, you must start asking questions to which you genuinely do not know the answer. Not the logistical questions about bills or children, but the questions that probe their current fears, their evolving ambitions, or the subtle changes in their moral landscape. You must allow your partner to surprise you. And you must allow yourself to be surprising. Many people confuse predictability with safety. But true, mature safety is not the absence of conflict or surprise. It is the deep, quiet assurance that you can be profoundly honest and still be held. This brings us back to the definition of fidelity itself. We often treat fidelity as a passive state, the refusal of external physical connection. But true fidelity in a long marriage is an active, continuous commitment to the psychological space between you. It is the choice to allocate your most precious resource, your psychological energy, to the relationship you have, rather than letting it drift toward the fantasy of the life you sacrificed. Fidelity is the commitment to remain curious, even when the answers seem obvious. The antidote to the slow decay of familiarity is not passion, but curiosity. Curiosity is the mechanism through which you treat your partner, even after 30 years, not as a known quantity, but as a complex, evolving mystery. Some authors explain that the long-term success of intimacy rests on the ability of both partners to continually update the narrative of who the other person is. You must actively seek the new version of them that emerged while you were both busy managing the shared household and raising the family. If you fail to do this, the emptiness will persist, and the weight of the unlived life will continue to press down. That weight is the cumulative psychic burden of all the words left unsaid, all the risks left untaken, and all the parts of yourself that you allowed to atrophy in the name of stability. The choice facing couples in this stage of life is often stark, though it is usually made in silence. You can choose the path of resignation. This path protects you from the immediate pain of confrontation and risk, offering a quiet, negotiated peace. But it guarantees long-term emotional emptiness and the slow, agonizing realization that you have exchanged vitality for comfort. This is the choice of decay. Or, you can choose the painful, difficult act of creation. This creation is not about attempting to recapture the youth you both left behind. That is a futile, nostalgic endeavor. It is about building a mature, second relationship with the same person. It is a relationship founded not on the youthful intoxication of merging identities, but on the grounded, difficult acceptance of two distinct, autonomous lives choosing to walk forward together. This requires accepting that the weight of the unlived life will always be present, somewhere in the background. But you can choose to use that weight not as an anchor that prevents movement, but as the gravity necessary for deep, grounded connection. It is only when you acknowledge what has been lost, the alternate futures, the younger selves, the initial intensity, that you can finally stop demanding that your current partner fulfill a role they are no longer capable of playing. The final, mature act of love is the conscious decision to choose the known partner, with all their flaws and all the history you share, over the seductive but ultimately illusory promise of the unlived life. It is the decision to risk uncertainty, to cultivate curiosity, and to begin the necessary work of seeing your spouse not just as the foundation of your security, but as the profound mystery they remain.
If this helped you, subscribe now for more videos like this. Thank you.